People often believe that as time moves forward, old emotions naturally close themselves off, as if everything has been carefully packed away in the past, with no real reason to turn back and look again. But for Libra, the heart has its own quiet way of remembering. A familiar feeling suddenly surfaces, not intense, not urgent, just enough to make you pause and gently ask yourself, how much have I truly changed? When old emotions return, what matters most isn't the past itself, but who you are in the present moment, the way you listen, the way you reflect, and the way you're beginning to see life through a different set of eyes. And from that moment, a new way of thinking slowly begins to take shape. So, we start here, when emotions once believed to be resting find their voice again. Libra. In the journey of growing into who we become, there are emotions we believe have been carefully placed somewhere deep inside. They don't disappear. They simply step aside, quietly, making room for responsibility, for the pace of life, for everything that needs to keep moving forward. You keep walking day after day. You learn how to stay balanced. You learn when to smile. You learn how to keep everything feeling okay. And over time, you begin to believe you've moved past the things that once unsettled your heart. But emotions don't follow the logic of time. They move to their own rhythm. They know how to wait. One evening, when the room is lit only by a soft glow, a familiar melody plays without warning. An old image drifts through your mind, no signals beforehand, no clear reason. And that feeling appears, not to overwhelm you, not to pull you back into the past, just a gentle presence, enough to remind you that what once touched your heart deeply never truly left. For Libra, emotion is always tied to memory, to connection. You don't remember because you want to go back. You remember because your heart honors what once held meaning. That isn't weakness. That is depth. That moment makes you pause. Not in confusion, but to listen more closely to yourself. You notice that the way you feel has changed. There's no panic, no urge to run away, only a clear, grounded awareness. So this feeling is still here. And right there, something important begins to happen. You no longer react out of old habits. You don't rush to label the feeling as right or wrong. You allow it to exist, like a visitor passing through, reminding you of how you once lived, how you once loved, how you once hoped. Libra often spends a great deal of time keeping everything in harmony, keeping the atmosphere comfortable, keeping relationships balanced, keeping the world around you from being disturbed. But here, in this deeply personal moment, there's nothing you need to hold together. You only need to be honest with your own experience. Old emotions returning aren't a sign of moving backward. They're more like a mirror, reflecting how you've changed, how you've grown stronger, what you've learned from the moments that once made your heart tremble. You begin to understand that growing up doesn't mean becoming numb. It means being able to face emotion directly, without letting it control every move you make. And this is where the real journey begins. When old emotions surface, yes, they're not here to take you back to who you used to be. They're here to reconnect you with yourself, the version that has lived enough to understand the true value of inner balance. Libra, if lately you've been sensing deeper movement within, if your heart has slowed its pace at times, if your thoughts linger longer on things once believed to be finished, that isn't coincidence. It's a quiet invitation from within, inviting you into a new stage of awareness. And before any direction takes shape, everything begins right here. With the moment you realize that emotions once thought to be resting are still softly whispering something about who you are today. What makes this moment truly stand out isn't the fact that old emotions have returned, but the way you're receiving them now. The person you are today has lived through enough experience to no longer react from old instincts. You don't rush to push discomfort away. You also don't let it pull you under. Instead, you begin to listen with a calm presence you may not have had before. Libra has learned something important. Balance doesn't come from controlling everything. It comes from understanding what's happening inside. You see your boundaries more clearly now. You know when to move forward. You know when to pause. And most importantly, you no longer blame yourself for emotions that arrive unexpectedly. There was a time when you tried to make sense of everything as quickly as possible. You searched for answers just to feel secure. But now, you allow yourself to stay with the feeling longer. No conclusions required, no urgency to fix it. Because there's a visible maturity in the way you face your inner world. You no longer treat emotion as an obstacle. You begin to see it as a signal, small messages helping you understand where you truly are on this journey. The Libra you are today is no longer afraid of inner contradiction. You accept that a deep heart can hold many layers at once. Nostalgic, yet clear-minded, honoring the past without being bound to it. And that's where the difference is made. You don't need to return to an old path just because a familiar feeling passes through. You also don't need to close your heart to prove that you're okay. Instead, you stand in the middle, the place Libra has always searched for. A new point of balance, built from a deeper understanding of yourself. Some emotions return only to show you how much you've grown since who you once were. And they no longer leave you disoriented. They simply reflect how steady the current version of you has become. You begin to tell the difference between what deserves to be kept as a meaningful memory and what has fulfilled its purpose and can now quietly step away. No clinging, no resistance, just clear awareness. And through that process, you come to realize something essential. You no longer feel the need to explain your inner experience to the outside world. You trust your ability to guide yourself. You trust an intuition sharpened through moments of imbalance, through times when you had to find your footing alone. The Libra of today is no longer searching for validation. You're searching for authenticity. And when old emotions appear now, they're no longer something that holds you back. As they become markers, quiet signs that you've stepped into a deeper level of awareness, a new perspective is slowly opening, not to change who you are, but to help you live more truthfully by the values you've been building all along. After realizing how much you've changed, Libra begins to notice something subtle. The way the mind now moves is no longer the same as before. You still think deeply, but those thoughts no longer chase surface emotions. They slow down. They go deeper. They begin turning inward. The familiar questions, the ones once filled with confusion, hurt, or self-blame, gradually lose their weight. The mind is no longer consumed with searching for causes. You stop retracing every detail just to understand why something happened. Instead, a different kind of question starts to form. Not judgmental. Not demanding immediate answers, just a gentle inner reflection. What is this experience helping me understand about myself? And that shift creates a very different inner space. Libra has always been skilled at weighing every side. But in this phase, you're no longer seeking answers to satisfy any argument. You're seeking understanding. There are days when you sit with your thoughts longer than usual, not to dissect them, but to watch how they come and go. You begin to notice that uncertainty no longer leaves you feeling lost. It becomes an open space, a place where you allow yourself not to know everything yet. For many people, the absence of answers can feel unsettling, but for Libra right now, it signals a new level of awareness. You understand that forcing clarity before you're ready only creates pressure. And that pressure once led you to choices that didn't truly reflect who you are. Now, you allow time to do its work. You let your thoughts settle. You let emotions find their proper place. No need to rush conclusions. No need to choose sides right away. Libra is learning to trust the inner process, to trust that every meaningful question carries its own rhythm, and clarity when it arrives will arrive naturally, without being forced. Along the way, you also come to realize something else that matters. The mind is no longer the unquestioned commander. It becomes a companion instead, listening with you, reflecting with you. Wisdom doesn't come from having every answer. It comes from the ability to ask the right questions, the kind that bring you closer to your true values. Libra begins to see life not as a series of problems to solve, but as a journey meant to be fully experienced. Every moment, whether gentle or challenging, carries a layer of meaning that can only be understood when you're quiet enough to listen. You no longer see hesitation as weakness. You recognize it as a necessary pause, a space where insight is nurtured before the next phase begins. And within that pause, you slowly realize that these new questions aren't here to change who you are. They're here to help you live more truthfully with what has always existed inside you. Libra, if lately you've been speaking less about decisions but thinking more about meaning, that isn't a sign of being stuck. It's a phase where the mind is reorganizing what truly matters. And when the question is finally placed in the right spot, the direction that fits you will reveal itself naturally, without noise, all without force, just clear enough for you to recognize that you're ready to move forward. For a long time, Libra believed that outer harmony was the measure of a stable life. You learned how to adjust yourself so the world around you wouldn't be disturbed. You listened more than you spoke. You stepped back to keep the atmosphere comfortable. And gradually, keeping everything okay became a habit, even when there were feelings inside that had no name yet. Even when your heart carried a quiet exhaustion you weren't ready to share. That old balance once helped you survive, but it also pushed you to place yourself last in more situations than you realized. At this stage, Libra begins to understand something important. Harmony does not mean making yourself fade. You no longer see your silence as the only way to keep the peace. You also stop explaining yourself just to avoid discomfort. Instead, a different kind of balance begins to form, one that doesn't come from managing other people's reactions, but from knowing your own limits clearly. You start to sense when it's time to pause, when it's time to listen, and when honesty with your emotions is necessary, even if that truth hasn't been neatly organized yet. Libra hasn't lost their natural sensitivity. You're simply using it in a more mature way. You choose inner clarity over surface-level calm. You choose long-term ease over momentary comfort. There are moments when you realize you no longer have the energy to be the one holding everything together. Not because you're selfish, but because you understand now that no one can stand firmly when their inner foundation is constantly neglected. The honesty with yourself becomes the new anchor. You don't need to present everything perfectly. You only need to acknowledge what you're truly feeling and allow that feeling to exist fully. Libra is learning that speaking your needs doesn't break balance. On the contrary, it allows relationships with others and with yourself to rest on something real. This new balance doesn't always feel comfortable right away. At times, it comes with quiet moments of stillness, spaces where you ask yourself what you truly need to feel safe. But within those spaces, you begin to stand on your own inner strength. You no longer rely so heavily on external feedback to decide whether you're right or wrong. You trust the awareness sharpened through past moments of imbalance, through times when you had to find your footing alone. Libra understands that harmony isn't a fixed state. It's a living process, changing with each stage of growth. And at this point in your life, the balance you're building is rooted in self-respect. You don't need to prove it to anyone. You only need to feel that you're no longer betraying your own emotions, just to preserve a fragile sense of peace. Perhaps the world around you isn't used to this version of Libra yet. The one who sets boundaries, the one who doesn't rush to please, the one who chooses inner truth as a guiding compass. But you know this clearly. This isn't an impulsive change. It's the result of a long journey of learning how to return to yourself. And from this new point of balance, you begin to feel a very different kind of relief. Not because everything is smooth, but because you no longer have to trade your inner peace to keep the outside world calm. After learning how to stand steadily within a new point of balance, Libra begins to notice a very subtle movement taking place inside. You can't quite name it yet. There's no timeline, no clear milestone, just a quiet, honest sense that the way you see life is beginning to shift. Things that once left you uncertain now seem to fall into a different place. You no longer approach everything with the familiar hesitation, but with a calmer kind of awareness. You start to notice that you react less to small disturbances, not because you've grown indifferent, but because you're choosing to preserve your energy for what truly matters. In relationships, you listen more carefully to how you feel after each conversation, not to decide who's right or wrong, but to understand this instead. What leaves you feeling lighter, and what leaves a quiet weight behind. From there, a new inner principle begins to form. You start leaning toward choices that bring long-lasting peace, rather than solutions that only make things feel okay for a moment. Libra doesn't change all at once. You shift gradually, like the way light changes at the end of the day. No one can point to the exact second it happens, yet everyone knows the sky is different. You no longer feel the need to explain why you're choosing to slow down, why you're less drawn to the things that once pulled your attention away, why simplicity now feels far more valuable than before. Inside you, a new way of thinking is slowly taking root. Not loud, not showy, just steady enough for you to recognize that you're moving to a different rhythm. Libra begins to understand that not every path needs to be chosen right away. Not every question requires an immediate answer. Some directions only become clear when you allow yourself to live fully in the present. You notice that you're less concerned with how things appear in the eyes of others. You care more about how it feels to be alone, to return to yourself after a long day. Peace becomes the new measure, not a fragile calm easily shaken by circumstance, but a sense of relief that comes from knowing you're living in alignment with the values you've chosen. Libra isn't searching for a perfect life. You're simply seeking a life that doesn't require constant adjustment to meet someone else's expectations. And this subtle shift begins to create deep, meaningful differences. You say no more easily when it protects your inner balance. You say yes more slowly, only when you truly feel ready. There's no longer a rush to keep up with anyone, no pressure to prove anything. You allow yourself to move at your own pace, trusting that each mindful step is bringing you closer to a version of life that reflects who you truly are. Others may not notice this change right away, but you know it clearly. You feel it in the way you breathe more deeply, in the way you choose silence instead of argument, in the way you prioritize what nourishes you over time, rather than what satisfies immediately. Libra, when a new way of thinking quietly takes shape, it doesn't arrive to turn your life upside down. It arrives to reorder what truly matters. And sometimes it's precisely these small things, a gentler choice, a decision rooted in self-respect, that end up reshaping the entire road ahead. Lately, you may have noticed that you've become more sensitive to very small things. A single sentence, a subtle shift in tone, a quiet pause between two people who once felt familiar. Your thoughts have gone deeper as well, no longer skimming the surface, no longer accepting things just because that's how they've always been. And at times, you choose silence more often than usual. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you're listening to yourself with greater clarity. These signs aren't signs of fragility. They reflect something else entirely. You're growing from the inside out. Libra has always been known for emotional sensitivity. But in this phase, that sensitivity is no longer directed only outward. It turns inward, where you begin to understand more clearly what truly nourishes your spirit. You no longer force yourself to move quickly. You stop trying to match someone else's pace. You allow yourself to slow down, just enough to recognize where you are and what within you is asking for care. You allow emotions to surface without labeling them, without rushing to place them into right or wrong. You simply acknowledge them as part of the human experience. Libra is learning to trust inner honesty, to trust that admitting what you truly feel doesn't make you weaker. On the contrary, it allows you to live more truthfully by the values that have been quietly forming over time. This new way of thinking doesn't arrive to demand a complete transformation. It arrives as a foundation, quiet, steady, strong, so you can build a life that fits who you are now. You don't need to see the entire road ahead. You only need to sense that you're no longer moving against yourself. And from that place, freedom begins to be redefined. Not freedom from responsibility, not freedom to do whatever you want, but the freedom to live without constantly reshaping yourself to be accepted. Libra understands that steadiness doesn't come from everything always being balanced, but from the ability to return yourself to stability whenever balance is lost. You don't need to be perfect to deserve peace. You only need enough honesty to avoid abandoning yourself in the choices you make each day. If today you feel as though you're standing in the middle of a transition, not yet clear, not yet complete, remember this. Every true transformation begins in moments like these. There's no need to rush conclusions. No need to push yourself to become someone else. Just keep moving with your own breath. Keep choosing what leaves your heart lighter at the end of each day. Libra, this new way of thinking taking shape isn't a promise about the future. It's a reminder of the present, that you're living with greater awareness, greater intention, and closer to your true nature than ever before. And if you're still listening now, perhaps a part of this story has touched your own experience. See the emotions that arise as quiet guides. There's no need to follow them immediately. Simply acknowledge that they're here for a reason uniquely your own. Thank you for staying with this story. Keep walking at your own pace, and allow each day to become a small opportunity to live more honestly as yourself.